big part of my role is really to understand the global consumer purchase behavior that is, of course, going to change, or their eating preferences that are going to change as part of being GLP-1 users. So what we've really tried to do is understand across a few key global markets, the United States, the UK, and some parts of LATAM, to really understand this consumer base and what's happening in terms of what are their preferences, what are they looking for in their diets, what products are they buying more of, what are they buying less of. And so really what we wanted to do is we started with the US consumer, just given that the US consumer is really driving adoption here. So in North America, we did a quantitative survey with over 2,000, almost 2,600 consumers. And really we wanted to understand their purchase drivers and their preferences across their full GLP-1 journey. So a lot of data that's out there about how consumers are interacting with the drugs and what their food and beverage intake is really focuses on existing users and consumers that are on the drug today. We really wanted to understand across the full journey of their weight loss, how do food and beverages change and their preferences change? So we looked at consumers considering the drug. We also looked at consumers recently starting the drugs. And then we also looked at consumers that had recently stopped, as well as long-term users that plan on stay for a long period of time. In addition, we wanted to understand the differences between a diabetic consumer versus one that's more motivated by weight loss. And really our end goal was to understand what the GLP-1 drugs were doing to their purchasing behaviors and their food and beverage priorities. And then what I think is really interesting in the UK, we really wanted to supplement this research with a more qualitative approach and a more ethnographic approach. So what we did in the UK to supplement our US insight is we looked at 22 UK consumers and we had a 1 week in-depth relationship with these consumers. And we looked at their habits throughout the day from the time they got up, eating breakfast, sending kids off to school, perhaps making food for their family, grocery shopping, exercising. So we really wanted to understand their daily activities. And we also looked at recent users versus long-term users, as well as those that had recently stopped. And ultimately what we found through this work is consistently, pun intended, one size does not fit all with this consumer group. So it might be easy to group these consumers all in one bucket area and say, this is how we need to approach this consumer demographic that is taking GLP-1 drugs. However, that's just not the case. Similar to general population, all consumers are different. And what we found from our consumer work is that there's 5 very specific consumer segments here. So if we take the total population of GLP-1 users and we break it down, this is the split of the consumer personas. I'm just going to touch on each of them very briefly. We're not going to go in depth onto each one. We actually have a separate report that you're welcome to download on our website that talks about the details of each of these. So the first one there, the future focused improver, she is 27% of the GLP-1 user base, or the opportunity, as we'd like to call it. She is very focused on healthy aging. So she's interested in long-term decisions and basically updating her habits to focus on longevity. So that's 27% of the opportunity. The gentleman then, the trailblazing trendsetter, as we'd like to call him, he's 25% of the opportunity. And he is the young millennial gentleman who loves anything viral, likes to try all the new stuff. He's a heavy supplement user, and he likes all of the new products that are launching that appeal to him. So very trend forward, and loves to get his information from social media, from advertisements. And he's also the one telling all of his friends about what are the new things to try. The woman in the middle, the balance maintainer, she's 16% of the opportunity. She's much younger. She's your Gen Z consumer. She's the one that is wanting to try GLP-1 drugs for weight loss, but are going to do it for a very short period of time. She wants a quick fix. She also doesn't have the income yet to really sustain over a long period of time the usage of the medication. And she again, from an income standpoint, often is living at home still with parents, maybe right out of school. And so again, is looking for a quick fix. And then, as her name would say, the balance maintainer, she's interested in, after that quick fix, having food and beverage products or products out in the market that are going to help her maintain without being on the drugs. The dynamic.